5 days into Operation Epic Fury, the United States has effectively ended Iran as a functioning naval power. More than 20 Iranian warships have been struck or sunk. Iran's most operational submarine has been damaged. There is not a single Iranian vessel underway in the Arabian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at the Pentagon podium on Wednesday and said the words that define where this campaign is heading. We can sustain this fight easily for as long as we need to. Here is the full, confirmed picture of what the US military has done to Iran's navy in 5 days, and what comes next. The campaign against Iran's naval assets began in the opening hours of Operation Epic Fury on February 28th. The first confirmed naval strike was a Jamaran-class corvette sunk at its pier in Char-Bahar on the Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM released satellite imagery of smoke rising from the naval wharf at the Konarak naval basin where the vessel had been docked. The ship was not at sea, it was not preparing for combat. It was sunk at its moorings before it had a chance to move. That was the opening signal of what CENTCOM Admiral Brad Cooper would later make explicit. The US is focused on sinking the entire Iranian navy. Over the following 4 days, the campaign systematically worked through Iran's naval inventory. The Iris Shahid Baghereh, Iran's helicopter and drone carrier, one of its most strategically significant vessels, was destroyed. The forward base ship Irin's Makran was damaged and seen burning at Bandar Abbas. The Iris Shahid Sayed Shirazi, a Shahid Soleimani-class missile catamaran corvette, commissioned as recently as February 2024, Iran's newest surface combatant, was struck on March 4th near Bandar Abbas, reported burning at sea with visible fire and smoke across its hull. Iran's most capable submarine was found and damaged. By Tuesday evening, Cooper confirmed on social media that not a single Iranian ship remained underway in the Arabian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. He did not frame that as progress. He framed it as a baseline. He added 4 words: "We will not stop." Then came March 4th and the Iris Dina, Iran's prize Moj-class frigate in the Indian Ocean near Sri Lanka, sunk by a single Mark 48 torpedo fired from an American fast attack submarine. 87 bodies recovered, 32 survivors, 61 crew still unaccounted for. The first enemy warship sunk by a US torpedo since the Second World War. That brings the confirmed total to more than 20 vessels struck or sunk, 1 submarine damaged, and Iran's naval presence in the operational theatre functionally neutralized, all within 120 hours of the first shot being fired. The scale of that destruction needs to be put in context. The US did not gradually degrade Iran's navy over weeks of attritional warfare. It effectively destroyed Iran's surface fleet faster than any navy has been neutralized in modern warfare since the 1991 Gulf War, when the Iraqi navy was wiped out in days. The combination of weapons systems deployed, US Navy guided missile destroyers firing Tomahawks around the clock, fast attack submarines carrying Mark 48 torpedoes, carrier-based aircraft and B-2 stealth bombers gave Iran's navy no viable response. General Kane described the result directly: Iran's navy is destroyed, combat ineffective, decimated, defeated, pick your adjective. Hegseth's briefing on Wednesday went beyond the naval scorecard. He confirmed that the US has struck nearly 2,000 targets across Iran using more than 2,000 munitions in 5 days. Those strikes have destroyed hundreds of Iranian ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. The IDF confirmed separately that Israeli Air Force strikes have rendered 300 missile launchers inoperable and have flown 1,600 aerial sorties, dropping 4,000 munitions across Iranian territory. In one confirmed first since 1985, an Israeli F-35 shot down an Iranian Yak 130 fighter jet in aerial combat, the first Israeli downing of an enemy aircraft in over 40 years. Then Hegseth said something that directly signals the campaign is about to intensify rather than plateau. More forces are arriving in the Middle East. He did not specify numbers, composition or timeline, but the statement, combined with his explicit declaration that the hardest strikes are still to come, confirms that what has happened in 5 days is not the full weight of the operation, it is the opening phase. CENTCOM framed the operational objective in language that removes any ambiguity about scope. General Kane stated the US has established localized air superiority across the southern flank of Iran's coast and penetrated Iranian defenses with overwhelming precision and firepower. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, CENTCOM will continue to strike infrastructure and naval capability. The word infrastructure is doing significant work in that sentence. It means the campaign is not limited to warships and missile batteries. It covers ports, supply chains, command facilities, communications networks, and the broader economic and military architecture that enables Iran to sustain a fight. The war has expanded geographically in multiple directions simultaneously on day 5. A NATO air defense system in Turkey intercepted an Iranian ballistic missile that had crossed Syrian and Iraqi airspace on its way into Turkish territory. Debris from the interception fell in Hatay province in southern Turkey. No casualties were reported, but the incident marks the first time an Iranian missile has been intercepted over a NATO member state's territory during this conflict. The US consulate in Dubai was struck, killing 3 people and injuring 68. Baghdad International Airport was attacked again, along with a US base in Erbil and a hotel in Erbil housing American personnel. US bases at Arifjan and Ali al-Salem in Kuwait were struck by Iran-aligned Iraqi militias. Iran fired 8 separate attack waves at Israel over 24 hours, including coordinated simultaneous launches from Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon, targeting central Israel. Since the war began, 12 Israeli civilians have been killed and more than 1,200 injured. The Senate voted on Wednesday to reject a war powers resolution that would have restricted Trump's authority to continue military action against Iran without congressional approval. The vote was 47 to 53. Republican Senator Rand Paul was the only member of his party to vote for the resolution. Democrat Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania was the only member of his party to vote against it. The resolution failed. Trump retains full operational authority to continue and expand the campaign without any legislative constraint. Trump himself addressed the war at a White House gathering of technology executives on Wednesday. He rated it 15 out of 10. He said Iran's ballistic missile stockpile is being rapidly wiped out. He said everybody that seems to want to be a leader ends up dead. None of those statements were walked back. Iran's government is responding on 2 tracks simultaneously. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian posted on social media addressing Iran's neighbors directly, telling them Iran respects their sovereignty and that Iran tried through diplomacy to avoid war but had no option after the American Zionist military attack. That is a diplomatic de-escalatory signal aimed at preventing Gulf states from fully joining the coalition against Iran. On the military track, the IRGC simultaneously issued a warning that a continued US campaign could result in the collapse of all military and economic infrastructure in the Middle East. That is not a de-escalatory signal. Those 2 messages going out simultaneously from the same government in the same 24-hour window reflect exactly the internal contradiction that has defined Iran's posture throughout this conflict, one hand reaching for a diplomatic off-ramp, the other still firing missiles. Here is the strategic picture as it stands at the close of day 5. The United States has destroyed Iran's surface navy in 5 days. It has conducted nearly 2,000 strikes across Iranian territory. It has established air superiority over southern Iran. It has sunk a warship in the Indian Ocean, extending the conflict to the 7th Fleet's operational area for the first time. The Senate has given Trump unlimited operational authority. More forces are arriving. Hegseth says the hardest strikes are still to come. Against that, Iran's ballistic missile and drone program continues to function. Hezbollah is actively fighting on 2 fronts. Iranian-aligned militias are striking US bases across Iraq and Kuwait. A NATO member state just intercepted an Iranian missile. The Strait of Hormuz remains commercially closed regardless of Iran's naval losses because war risk insurance withdrawal is the mechanism keeping ships away, not Iranian surface vessels that no longer exist. And inside Iran there is no confirmed successor to Khamenei, no governing authority with real power, and no clear channel through which a negotiated end to this conflict can be reached even if both sides wanted one. The war is 5 days old. The US has just begun to reload.